Hey, this is Steve with RV to Cycle. Yep, I've been a bit MIA between my health issues and health issues with family. Just haven't had the time to do any videos. This particular video is quite a bit different than what we would normally do. This video pays a tribute to my father, who recently passed away. And the reason I'm doing this is I want his grandchildren to know as much as they can about him, not just from me, but more importantly, from the words of others. Here we go. This is about Ace Barnes, my dad, 1928 to 2025. He was 96 years old.
When I first came to the oil field in '49, I was working for a drilling contractor. And we had a little explosion on a rig one time. I burned my old head a little bit. A few years later, I decided the best thing to do is be working for some company that put fires out instead of being on a rig where they started. You know, you're only old as you feel. Some mornings when I get up, I feel about 120, but at about 9:30 the next night, I'm feeling about 35. My name is Ace Barnes, and I'm 70 years old. My children do not follow me in my footsteps. First of all, they couldn't keep up, and second of all, there's a better way of making a living. It's so muddy, and dozers getting stuck, and the pipe won't drag straight. Teamwork is very important, because it's pretty hard to eat a pile of hay when two mules are going opposite directions. You get to think about the supreme being when you're getting near one of these big raging fires. We finally got the mother kept, and went just slick as a whistle, like taking candy from my baby. We're just common folk. We're all well firefighters.
In Kuwait, Mike Foreman, Danny Clayton, Danny Wazell, Gary Stanger, and a host of others had Ace there with us in 1991 and in 2003 again. And he was like the color commentator. Every job was always better with Ace. Always.
So, but Ace really, you know how he is. I mean, he said what was on his mind.
Oh, yes.
And Stephen had a quote that my wife thought was really funny, Stephen. He said, "The only filter my dad ever had was on his cigarettes." He tells it like it is. One unique individual sits on the back row. In addition to Ace's uniform back there at the back, there was a card there at one time said, "This pew respectfully reserved for the Honorable Elder Ace Barnes, Esquire. Any questions? Unseat the pew cushion for squatters' rights." He comes very early to save his back pew and waits for his daughter and son-in-law. He smiles his crooked smile, greets people even though have been around for 50 plus years since he and his family joined the church when it was Normandy Heights. He was one of those men who did all the chores since the church could not afford to pay anyone except the preacher, Harry Johnson, and maybe the organist who was also the preacher's wife, Liz. You guessed it, it's Ace Barnes, the man who drives the car with the label Boots and Coots on the side. He does this because Ace and Boots and Coots are the head of the team that for years were the first called to come fight oil well fires. He can tell many stories of flying around the world to help put out fires.
It's easy to speak about Ace Barnes, the first and longest term employee at the Boots and Coots Oil Well Firefighters and Blowout Specialist Company. prestigious career with a prestigious company. I know Boots Hanson loved him. Who didn't? There's so many stories you can tell about Ace, but not so many that can be told in polite company. James Tuppin's words. James and Ace traveled to Australia, Congo, Middle East, Indonesia. We know Ace and Coots Matthews were best partners. And I know Sharon Scott Matthews, his daughter, could probably tell this story better, but as I recall, Coots told that they was going into the Congo once, and Coots said, well, maybe we'll get somewhere that nobody knows Ace Barnes. Said they took a commercial flight to Paris, and then another one to Pointe Noire, Congo, and then a puddle jumper into the jungle airstrip. Coots said, as we were getting off the plane, some cowboy wheels up in a 4x4, jumps out and says, well, if it ain't Ace Barnes. Coots says, Pods, I'm getting back on the plane. Gary Stanger and Ace became very good friends, and their families shared a lot of times in Red River for years thereafter.
Blowing through Pecos every day. Just he's riding beside me, just jabbering, and I'm just not paying attention, and we're blowing through town, and there's the same cop at that little bitty gas station where you still fill it up on your own right there on the side of the freeway. And we did this like 3 days in a row. And we were going back to that hotel where Donnie Wilson liked to stay. We blew through there like the 4th day, and whoo, here he comes. And I'm going, shit. And we were going to meet everybody for dinner. I roll the window down, and the cop says, I've been watching you for 3 days. Speed through and he says, oh, hell, I know him. And I've been trying to tell this young man to slow down for 3 days, and he ain't been listening to me. I said, hey, I don't need no help here. He let me off, because I knew I'm going to let you off one time, but if I get you blowing through my town again, I'm taking you to jail and leaving him out.
Ace had to go pick up a car one day. And so he went and he picked up a Lincoln Continental, and we had to bring the car back after a couple of days. I was driving, and he always talks to you whenever you're driving.
Oh, yeah.
And telling you which way to turn and to speed up and to slow down and all that. And so the light turned yellow, started putting the brakes on. He said, go ahead, Pops, go ahead. You got it. Go. And so I gave it the gas, and I ran through that light, and 2 cars were coming. And then Ace said, what are you trying to do? You trying to kill us? The rest of the ride, I wouldn't talk to him.
Sharon McCoy asked me to share this little memory of Ace. He hadn't been to Houston to see us, I don't know, for maybe a couple years, So he come over there and he pulls up in his white Continental, jumps out in his white coveralls and runs in the front door there. He comes right around Sharon's desk and just jumps in her lap and hugs her neck and says, hi, sweetie. Well, of course, she shoves him off and says, get off my lap, Ace. James Tuppin asked me to acknowledge his long friendship with Ace and to share this story. He said he and I were flying into Australia on a charter. After 17 hours on the commercial flight from Houston to Sydney, no smoking, Ace was not having it, so he huffed one down on the tarmac, and then he got in this charter flight, and they still had like 6 hours flying across Australia. So Ace lights one up, even though he wasn't supposed to. The pilots said it's okay. They said, in fact, there's been one other person we let smoke on this plane. Ace is just the second one. The first one was Keith Richards. Imagine that. He may be the only person that outlives Ace. I caught up with them in Wyoming on a huge blowout in 1990. Well, even though I had previously had 17 years with Cudwell Control, Ace called me a worm. One memorable job was Pedernales, Venezuela, Amacuro Delta, 1995, one of the most remote places on Earth. I was bunking with Ace on the float tail. that we had tied up there in the river. No TV, no radio, lights out by 9 p.m. because we had early mornings. Now, probably everybody here that knows Ace knows he loved to talk. So I would just about be asleep, and Ace would go, "Hey, Pods, did I ever tell you about that time Coots and I went to the Congo?" Well, 10 minutes story would follow, and then Ace would say, "All right, we better get some sleep," like it's my fault we're awake. 2 minutes later, "Hey, Pods, remember that time we were in Kuwait?" Oh, sorry, let's get some sleep." 5 minutes later, "What do you think we'll have for lunch tomorrow?" Repeat for 28 days. One of the last jobs I did with Ace was Pecos, Texas, 2005. Ace was a spry 76 years old. I was just a baby at 48. Now, this location had 4-inch rock on it, and at the end of the third or fourth day, we were changing boots to go home. I was rubbing my dogs and apparently groaning. Ace said, "What's the matter, Pods?" I said, "My feet hurt." I said, "Don't your feet hurt after being on that rock all day?" Ace looked at me and said, "My feet ain't never hurt a day in my life." I wanted to kill him. Well, that plus the fact that he had a full head of hair and I didn't. But he's just too lovable, and that was just his way of saying, "Get over it."
This is the birthday card for Ace back when he was 90. "When I look at you, I see a man who knows the difference between action and words and makes certain that what he does matches what he says." Sounds like integrity to me. Work ethic. "I see a man who's brave enough to meet challenges, humble enough to admit mistakes. I see someone who is an all-round good person, a prime example of a good, great friend. Enjoy a day where all the good you do comes right back to you." That was happy 90th birthday. And her daddy and Ace were best friends, kind of natural friends. And that was a story about everybody knew Ace. He had friends everywhere, remote, no matter how remote. But this one's about how he knew everything. During a slight difference of opinion, he'd tell you that he must be right because you know everything. And Ace would respond, "No, I don't know anything about whales." So your daddy bought him a book entitled, it's out there in the foyer, "Everything You Need to Know About Whales," and they couldn't wait to get it to him. And I believe on the inside of the book, it says, "Just so you'll know everything about everything, from your admirers," which is scratched out, "enemies," just but that sound by a lot of you.
No, we were on a job in the Sespe Mountain Range. It was Ace and Coots and myself. And of course, it's a very environmentally friendly area. It was up in a refuge, actually, where they had a condor refuge. So we had to be careful up there as far as any pollution. And the well was on fire. Coots and I worked on it for 2 days, and then Ace shows up, and he walked down by the well and had a ball cap on. And so the LA Times comes out there and takes a picture of him, and they had it on the cover. It said, "Ace Barnes into the flames." And here we've been there for 2 days. And we went on a job over in the Congo. Ace was on that flight. And so I was tired, and I talked to him, and I said, "Tell me about this well, because I want to get it over as soon as possible so I can get back home. I've been gone for 30 days. And he told me what was going on with the well. He said it's on fire, and told me a bunch of details. And he said, "And fish." And I said, "Well, what fish?" And so if you lose something in the well, we call it a fish. And so I said, "Well, what fish do they have? Is it drill pipe, or what did they lose in the hole?" He said, I'm telling you, the man told me fish." I got frustrated with him, and I went to sleep. When we arrived, we found on the platform that there were fish all over the platform. And what happened was they were swimming by the well there at the bottom, and the well was causing a Venturi effect, and it was throwing all these fish up on top of the platform.
Oh my.
And of course, it had a terrible smell. And so then I knew what he was talking about when he said fish. And Boots shows up about 2 weeks later. We had to get on the platform on a personnel basket, and there were waves which were causing this derrick bar to move up and down, and so we were swinging like a pendulum, and then it hit the deck of the platform, and we all three came rolling out of it.
Oh my.
And then Ace decides he's going to go have a cigarette. So he goes and he sits down on the side of the platform on the steps, and he's having a cigarette because he's frustrated. And Boots comes over there and tells him to put the cigarette out. He said, "Put that thing out. This well's blowing out." And Ace said, "It's already on fire. What's the problem?" And so he said, "I told you to put it out." And Ace said, "Well, I'll tell you what, this is a smoking section right here, and I'm going to smoke." And he did. And he told Boots, he said, if he didn't like it, call him a helicopter. He was going back to Houston. Well, you know what? He lived a full life, and I've made many jobs with him, and I've been many places with him, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I'll share this story that Roy Heffley asked me to share when Ace joined them at Stellar Well Control. They went on a blowout over here south of Crane. Ace was 87 years old. And I think Roy, we were pretty sure that was his last job, his last blowout. Unbelievable. And how fitting he ended a stellar career with a company named Stellar. Soar with the angels, Ace. Lord knows you traveled the world with us turkeys.
Okay, hope you got something out of this. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.